All right, so let's jump into pulse chain. Here we are, 1 hour chart. I thought we'd go to that. We had a nice little rally overnight. Woohoo! Look at that. Look at that. Pretty cool. We were down at 5 zeros, 93.38. And I said yesterday's video that was been our support level. Very cool. You can see it repeatedly going on there. And we had a nice little rally on the hourly charts. Look at that. That's the previous day, so yesterday and 2 hours, up a 16% on pulse. Very cool stuff there. And we gained a lot. So we gained 5 zeros, 14.86 was the change, 15.9% in a day and 2 hours. And that took us up to a 1083. So 4 zeros, 1083. Pretty cool. Now we're still up over the last day and a half. So now a day and 14 hours, up almost 11, well, let's just be accurate, 11.7%. And that's at 5 zeros, 1096 on the change. We're now sitting an absolute level at 4 zeros, 1044, losing a zero. And that zero is down here, right? So that 4001 is right here. So we're above that now, looking good. So that's the hourly chart. Thought we'd look at that. It was a bit of fun. Let's go to the 4-hour trader view. We're above the 50 and the 21-hour moving average here, looking pretty good. We can see we've got higher highs and higher lows continuing on. Is the pulse chain here looking really good. Let's look at the short time frame here. RSI is elevated at 65, but not overboard, over 70. And then we've got the stochastic just chilling out a little bit here. But it might do something like this, might do something like that. It's just chilling out here a little bit here, dropping back. Let's look at the daily. After that run up that we had, the daily here is still rising. So we're still at elevated at 87. The RSI itself is just over the overbought territory at 71. So we're slowly climbing here. We've still got room to move in the 4 hour. We saw still a little bit of room there just to sit over 1,000. And the question is, we're gonna be able to hold up there on this move. So let's have a look at the daily and get rid of the RSIs. And you can see we've got our higher lows intact. So at 6,300 with 5 zeros. Then we went to 7,300 with 5 zeros. And then we've gone to this 9,300 that I talked about yesterday. We've bounced off that several times in a row, which is very supportive. We have got higher highs here. They are getting a little bit on the daily. They are getting a little bit lower, and that's when you kind of get this rounding, right? This rollover. I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we've still got a bit of oomph there left with the 4 hour. And so, still think we can make it here. Now the question is, are we going to try and consolidate up here as well? My target is still sitting at 1,200. We'll see how we get on there, but still feeling good about that. With the 1,200 being maybe the resistance. We already had that little gold mode candle, which, maybe it's an off sign, but still that was at 4 zeros, 1173. So we've still got a bit of room to there. How much would that be to actually go? Well, if we took it from yesterday's high, that's another 11.5%. So that's doable. That's quite doable. We've probably still got enough room in the 4 hour for that. So still feeling pretty good about that 1,200. That is the end of the first wave for me, right? And I think we see that in the charts. That's probably fear comment. Obviously, I don't know the future, but we're just trying to go off all these averages. We are also above on the daily. We're above the 200 daily moving average. That is currently at 5 zeros, 9963. So just below 1,000. We have the 50-day moving average moving up at 5 zeros, 8,049. And we've got a golden cross potentially coming up here as this yellow line here crosses the 200 moving average. So that would be a golden cross. And when have we last seen that? not for years, not for years, have we? Let me have a look here. So let me look on this one. Last time we saw that, it was all the way back here, 12th of August, maybe not quite years, but a year ago. 12th of August 2025, and it was only lived for a little bit of while. But you got to remember the structure of the chart was very different back then, and we've had quite supportive structural changes here to break that mega downtrend. We're getting there. We're slowly getting there. And as you guys know, so, assuming Bitcoin doesn't go down for a crash, there's no catalyst to take us down in the next month and a half to 2 months. Then we may very well have the bottom in at 54. We're double tapped at 54. We're getting a nice little breakout on this first wave move. Let's see where we go. 1,200, pretty key though. And maybe we might just sit into that. Now you guys know maybe the second part of the move, second wave, is to actually hit the 1,700. We're going to need a lot of stability in this chart. maybe just to retest a little bit. So let's have a look at this chart on this move. There's a number of things we could take two different approaches to this. Let me just screen back here. It's auto-logged that too. Let me just move the back. Sorry, I prematured on that one. Let's go back here. All right, so let's have a look at the Fibonacci retracement. So we'll take it from the 54. We'll take it up to the top here. So, this is the first way we're going to look at this, is that, a retrace here. If we had a strong retrace, at the moment we got obviously support at 9,300, but let's say 8,700 would be a strong retrace to 87 if we fail to hit the 1,200. And, if we fail to do that, I still think we've got enough momentum in the 4 hour, and it's not that big a percentage to go. So 1,200 is still looking pretty good for me. And if you look at the daily here, the daily is at looking pretty good at 1,014. So just sitting above that, sitting above the pocket there. If we had very little change, that'd be impressive. Still got a bit of chance to move high here. That weekly support there at 1,000 has got to be the key. Then 9,300 and then 87. That'd be a pretty strong zone to stay in, right? And hopefully the market does stay in there. We've certainly had good momentum at this point. Now, we do expect a bit of profit taking to go on. We've already had a couple of those as we're zigzagged up. But 87, I think, is looking pretty good there for a strong move. Now, if we had a bad move based on where we are at the moment, in other words, we failed to move higher to that 1,200 mark, then the 61.8 is showing at 74.59. So that hopefully that would be the worst case scenario. A lot of times Fibonacci goes back to 61.8. I'm not expecting anything like the 78.6 at all. I think we're on the move, right? And things are going pretty well. So that's kind of the play there. We have a lot of cool protocols from LibertySwap rolling out over the next few weeks. They're going to create a lot of excitement too, hopefully, and that should be positive with the value there. So that's kind of the place. That's our first approach. Let's look at the second one. We're going to look at if we actually do get up to 1,200. Let's get that extra 10, 12% move. And we've certainly got the room in the 4 hour to do that. Then the retrace is a bit different here. So the 23.6 is at 1,094.49. So it would pull us just above the weekly daily moving average at 1,049. So looking really super strong. We hold that. So if we come back down to test this daily moving average for the 200, that'd be very positive, right? So we've got some spots there. Now, if we did go a bit further down, we've got the 38 at 9,500. So we've got a 93 to 9,500 support there. That'd be our second level down. And, a good chance if we come down from here, let's see what that would be, obviously, in terms of percentages. So, let's say we come back down to test the daily, that would be a 15% retrace. Let's say, more profit taking is taken, and we come back to the just below the 38, down to 93. That would be a 22%. We might very well do that. Might very well be able to, get a sideways movement, a bit of profit taking, but a sideways movement down there. That'd be pretty cool. Now, a 50 retrace would be 8,700. A 61.8 would be almost 8,000. And I don't really want to lose a zero, but at least if we bounce to 61, that might be a good trigger. But a strong chart would definitely be maybe a third move down. So a third move down there, let's say 33%. What would that be taken? That would be down around 8,000 as well. So that would be a 61.8. So anything strong in the third percentage move would be good. But obviously the best one would be if we can hold above or around this 200 weekly moving average if we do get to 1,200, which I think is looking still good for that. Not a certainty, but certainly looking, a good probability we'll make that 1,200 mark. But we're certainly getting lower highs here. So today's pretty pivotal for that. Maybe leading into the week. Hopefully we get some good news around the digital asset treasuries next on Monday. Get some good stuff like that. We'll have a bit of a dip, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. Maybe the market might anticipate excitement for the White House meeting on Wednesday. So that could keep us going. So we had to have potential tailwinds supporting us here, and we're still getting good capital coming over the bridge. So it's still looking positive for the upside there with some of those catalysts. All right, let's jump over to the weekly chart. I'll have a look if there's any comments on that, but let's go to the weekly chart to see that support as well. Let me have a look here. So that's the weekly chart here. Still looking pretty good. Let's go to the RSI. RSI is still super friendly for a big long run here. This is also hyper supportive for our upward chart, and we're still sitting here at 52. So we've got a long way to go. Stochastic is a little hot at the moment, but we can zigzag around there, especially with our shorter time frames, supportive of a move at least up to 1200. And like I said, I think that's the end of the first wave for me. And as long as we can hold, a relative percentage retrace from there, if that does occur, then we're looking good to start to try and attack. So let's argue that we don't have any fourth wave down for Bitcoin. We've truly bounced the lower 5400. Then we've got the low one, right? We've got the low one finally on the chain. We certainly had structural support for that back here with these 11 weeks of fighting between 72 and 8200. And then, of course, we've had this big rally up the upside here, coming over the current 21 weekly average is at 87.38. So that's another good support line there. And looking pretty good. And so, yeah, I'm still feeling pretty good about this. Just noting that it's pretty important the next day or two that we still get these higher highs, right, and higher lows, and not start to roll over. And that's where you get that sort of retrace into some of those zones that I mentioned on the daily. So, still looking good in my view. The chart there, we're obviously pretty important coming up here. Now, typically, tomorrow is going to be Monday down under, which is Sunday US time. Sunday is when the market makers come in. So still a bit dicey there, So I think we've got a lot of tailwinds coming up, momentum, but still, Sunday can be a little bit dicey there. And let's assume no whales come in and smash, rain on the parade, and that they're all ready to run this chart up. So that's kind of where I feel about that. What about the new UFO token? We'll get to that if it's on the top 100. We'll have a look at that too. All right, so that is kind of where we are with the charts. And of course, this is our second goal. So first goal, 5,400, if that's the bottom, certainly looking positive for that. And then second goal is to break the mega downtrend on Pulse Chain, which we've most people not enjoyed very much. And so we are trying to break that big yellow line and zigzag like this blue line out, right? So that's kind of cool. So after 1,700, get back to maybe 1,000, 1,200, and then bounce out, and then kill the big yellow long downtrend there on Pulse. So that's kind of the play there. So still momentum slightly to the upside here, and let's see if it can consolidate and make a sideways channel or something. That's kind of the play.